welcome to the fundamentals of iotum's new webinar platform. It's a series we're actually going to try to start doing more and more to showcase different feature sets of new products and other launches that we're doing here over the course of the next year. Of course, I'm going to be hosting this with my colleague Kara. She is the partner manager. Myself, I'm Michael McCready. I'm the VP of Sales. I deal with business development and partner onboarding and such. And we figured we would just walk you through the new and exciting webinar tool as part of our service package. So some quick housekeeping. We'll just go over a brief agenda. The objective, as mentioned, is to showcase new products and features. Today's is webinar. We're going to share some industry statistics. So who's using, market trends, how much webinars are still being leveraged out in the marketplace. We're going to look at common use cases or event-driven business cases to use webinar tools. We will do a feature explanation, which Kara will do along with a demonstration. And then we'll offer up some product positioning tips as to where to find opportunities in the market as it relates to webinars. So the first thing is stats. So webinars have been around for a long time. I think Microsoft started it back in, I don't know what year it was, with live meeting. Since then, there's been a number of players in the market, from Citrix GoToMeeting, Cisco's WebEx, Zoom obviously is in the market with their webinar tool, and then there's some other folks like On24 and some sort of virtual event-based webinar tools. So in 2021, we were seeing a $100 billion market already. By 2028, it's determined that it will grow up to about 234 billion. And there's some key factors that are driving those revenue growth projections. One is most marketers, or 67% of marketers, are actually planning to increase their use of webinar tools and increase their investment. And that's due to showcasing new products, using it as a sales positioning tool, to have webinars to showcase product releases, partnerships, and so on and so forth. 40% of most businesses are reallocating their live event budgets over to webinars. As you know, the pandemic kind of put everyone in a virtual world. But now that the dust has settled, I think most businesses found the effectiveness of holding virtual events. It gives you wider reach, allows you to share more rich content, and ultimately it costs less than per diems, hotel, flights, and etc. to do in-person events. 2.6 million searches are done for webinar per month. That's 86,000 per day, where someone is going to Google and searching out webinar related keywords. Those people are likely on the hunt for a tool similar to what we're offering here. So it's a very active market with a lot of inquiry on the web. 73% of marketers state that webinars are their best way to generate high quality leads. I know I've attended a number of sales related webinars where they are prospecting. They're ultimately showcasing their product, demoing their platform, and using that as a means to do the appropriate follow-up afterwards and generate new leads. The way that it's effective and the way that it becomes high quality is you've already done sort of a pre-qualification, if you will, where you're actually shown the product, talked about the different feature sets, and it just makes that sales conversation a lot more easier because they've been qualified by the viewing of your product. So we'll get into some use cases. We're keeping things pretty high level. We just want to make sure you're aware of what the tool does, where to position it, who uses it. So some common use cases that we see today in the market are for internal engagements. So things like town halls, annual general meetings, board meetings, anything with importance where something needs to be shared, some content needs to be leveraged, and it's more of an all hands on deck where most folks are in a listen-only mode, and you have a keynote speaker like a CEO or a head of HR that's talking about policy change. They're there to consume a corporate message, and so a lot of times, for internal purposes, it's being used that way. Demonstrations, which I've already kind of covered. So product demos, it's cheaper than inbound marketing lists, cheaper than going to trade shows. You don't have to get on a flight. You have a tool. You can send out a mailer to those that you want to attend and showcase your product, demonstrate your services, and basically build a qualified sales list that way. The third one would be knowledge sharing. So these are for those that have partnerships or reseller networks, or even if you're in the nonprofit space, large member bases. It allows you to share company updates, product launches, roadmap sessions of things to come, and just general knowledge sharing when it comes to the education of your product portfolio or your services. Fourth is Q&A sessions. So obviously webinars are widely used for large attendance meetings, and in those meetings, Q&A becomes pretty challenging. So it allows people to actually leverage a webinar tool to do large scale question and answer sessions, either with customer bases, with partners, or the general public for that matter. A case in point is I joined a webinar for a municipal government that was talking about some zoning laws about the condo going up, and people were joining in, and everyone's on listen only mode to get to hear the city council representative talk about what the plans are for the area, and it was basically treated as a giant Q&A session where people can come in, ask questions via chat, and get the answers that they're looking for. Next one would be onboarding events. So think about training new employees. A lot of times people aren't in office anymore. So webinar tools are used for really content heavy type of meetings. So things like training manuals, testing, anything that you can upload and share to a group of people, whether it's one-on-one or if you have you're onboarding an entire new team that needs to get up to speed with company policy, the product, et cetera, et cetera. Webinars are obviously a great tool there, and that goes for customer onboarding as well. So, for those of you that are bringing on new customers, a lot of times it's easier to do sort of a general onboarding session, send out an invite to any number of new customers that are joining, and walk them through the features of the platform and answer any Q&A through chat that way. Some of the more creative uses we've seen come out of the pandemic were things like lunch and learns, virtual conferences, and I don't know how many times I was invited to a happy hour where you would get on and play a game that was potentially uploaded or something. We saw a lot of that, and I think as staff are still somewhat dispersed, it's a good way to keep social culture going in a certain way, where you can have people join in large groups, teams, and use things like the breakout rooms to go chat amongst each other while enjoying your favorite beverage on a Friday after work. Education is a big one. New workshops, subject matter expert sessions, anything to help develop new skills and the ongoing development of staff. We see that a lot in hospital settings. We see that with nurses unions and, of course, education sector itself, anywhere from not so much K to 12, but in the post-secondary education sector with college and universities, webinars are leaned on a lot. And the last use case here that we have is marketing and lead gen. I've kind of been touching this as we go throughout already, but product promotion and selling, I mean, it's used, the webinar setting is used more and more these days. There isn't a day that goes by that I'm not invited to see somebody's product pitch or be invited to see someone's new feature set that they've just launched on their platform. So these are just some common use cases. There are obviously some other fringe use cases and other creative ways to leverage it, but these ones I think on a day-to-day basis are used the most frequently. So I'll hand it over to Kara quickly just to go through the features. She's going to follow it up with a demo of the platform.
Yep. Thanks, Michael. That was great. We've built in quite a feature-rich platform for the webinar product. We've made it very easy for you to engage participants on any device. That's one of our, one of the things that we're very proud of with our meeting rooms. So you can kind of cross that over to the webinar as well, that whether you're on a mobile phone or tablet, desktop, doesn't matter, you can join and watch the webinar. You can obviously do live casts like this is, but you'll also be able to upload pre-recorded events and do like a semi-live scenario and engage people that way, making it a little bit easier for you to get that content in place and get it perfect every time. You have some interactivity with attendees. As you see here, you can chat with us. You can also create polls. I'll show you how you can do that right in the dashboard. You can do it on the fly, but certainly we don't like to leave all of that up to chance. So you can kind of pack those into the to the platform as you're scheduling the webinar, which is nice. We give you a couple different ways to stream this out. You can, if you didn't already know this, you're able to stream to YouTube, which really expands your reach immediately. As far as I know, you can stream out to millions via one YouTube link. So that's something that we've made pretty easily available and integrated into the platform. Of course, you want to know who your attendees are. If you're doing these lead gen events, that's exactly why you're doing them. So we'll give you analytic tools to provide you with that information so you can capture your leads, etc. I want to just show you quickly how it looks on the dashboard. If you haven't had the opportunity to see this, we can add it, just so you know, we can add it to your beta plan, so you can schedule these, you can even hold these, but it'll really give you a chance to work with the product. What I really love is that there's nothing overly complicated about this. It's sewn right into the existing meeting room look and feel. So if you have users that are used to scheduling meetings, they can now just see a webinar button and schedule it through there. It follows the same logic, so it should be extremely familiar to everybody. So for example, if you're clicking on that, you can see I've scheduled some upcoming webinars. It's going to be a busy December for me, it looks like here, but this is where, I've already set these up, added my polls, etc. But I can schedule another one if I like right here, as you're used to seeing again through the meeting scheduler. It looks almost exactly the same. So I'm out of ideas. We'll just live broadcast a sales meeting here. Pick your date, your time, description if you would like. Here's where you can set up your polls beforehand, as I mentioned. I won't go through creating them, but you can create multiple polls, and when you're done, finish that up. You can choose your settings. So that's up to you. If you don't want anybody to chat, if it's purely a presentation, choose that. If you will be having somebody there, a panelist, for example, like myself, moderating chat, you can go ahead and open it up to people. But the default we find is that we allow chat with moderators, so that's what's there. Enable practice mode. This is the default is checked because we really feel that most people do want to jump into a webinar with their panelists at some point beforehand to discuss what's going to happen, to iron out any really last minute issues, and then start broadcasting only when they're ready to do so. So that practice mode gives you that opportunity. We certainly use that today. So it's something that we know everybody wants. Registration, I'll show you how that works as well, but that's obviously a big ticket item where you want to know things about your registrants and then know who they are when they're joining, and then find out more about them after they've joined. You can, of course, include dial-in numbers if you like. Somebody's en route and they don't have the ability to watch everything, they can dial in. And if you want people to know how many people are there, you can enable that, but we find that most people like to just leave that up to the imagination and disable that. So this invitation here is going to be for your panelists. So people who you want to be speaking or participating fully in your webinar in some way, shape, or form will be invited here. And this is where you would choose your registration fields, just whatever makes sense to you, and your dial-in numbers. Again, very, very similar to the meeting scheduler that we already have. And when you're done, it'll schedule that and give you that registration link. So that's going to send out invitations to your panelists, to people who are going to join that WebRTC room. And then you can copy that registration link right from your dashboard and start to invite all of your attendees. You can send this off in a mass email. You can use your MailChimp, your constant contact. You can text people. You can post it on Facebook. You can tweet it. You can do whatever you like with this registration link, and that's going to provide this this page, like you saw registering for this event, to all of your participants. Just to make it easy, I'm going to autofill everything here and register. And then, of course, you're familiar with this as well. They get a personal access link. They can add it to the calendars, and that will go into their Outlook or their Gmail, and they'll be able to join when the meeting, when the webinar starts. And then, of course, that will end up in your upcoming webinar section, and any webinars you have in the past will be available to you, so you can look at that information as well. Michael, back to you.
Who's using webinar? So associations and nonprofits are a good place to start. You know, most NFPs, most associations, they have fairly large member bases, and it requires them the ability to talk to a number of organizations and member bases in large groups, and sometimes it's just not easy to do without a webinar tool. You know, you're able to invite hundreds of people, if not thousands of people, to join you, where you can talk about different initiatives that are coming up, different membership benefits that may be changing. You know, as far as webinar sales are concerned, I would say that associations and nonprofits are probably our highest volume of people that over time have purchased a webinar tool. Because it just allows them to have that public outreach to their member base without having to rely on just things like mailers and monthly newsletters. There's more engagement involved where they can talk about individual membership challenges, etc. So the next one would be healthcare. I covered this earlier in the ongoing education side of use cases. You know, education is constantly trying to better themselves from a continuous education perspective, and whether it's nurse groups or unions that are part of the healthcare system, they have a big focus on both internal education, and we saw a lot of this during COVID-19 pandemic, is external sort of public updates on health policy and what's changing in whatever particular part of the country or wherever you are in North America. It was a thing that was happening here in Canada a lot, where you can join public webinars to talk about different COVID-19 mandates and different things that were happening. So healthcare always has leveraged this, both internal and external, for awareness. Investor relations is an interesting one. IR calls were always traditional. If you're from the conferencing business like I am, we're always traditionally held on like an operator-assisted event call type scenario, where a member would be screened, they would be there on listen-only mode, and somebody would talk to their potential investors about whatever idea it is they wanted to talk about. Because there's some added security where you can see advanced registration in the webinar tool, there's really no need for that human operator to kind of interject in the call and take names. You actually have all of this information at your fingertips, so you know your audience. So, you know, with the registration options, it means you get to target your audience and provide the appropriate follow-up following the meeting. You know who's been in attendance. If there's a package that needs to be sent out about a particular stock or whatever you're talking about, you can see who was in attendance, who registered for it, and do the appropriate follow-up afterwards. Education, another big player in as far as the target markets you're looking at. Post-secondary education often leverage webinar tools for things like departmental meetings. We've seen it for orientations for large groups of potential students. And one of the newer ones I've seen in the past year is virtual open house seminars. Now, everyone's trying to target new students and keep their student head count up, and it's very competitive in the post-secondary world of universities vying for great new students to come join their programs. I've seen some schools start to leverage a webinar tool for open houses, so they will share things like the different types of programs or what separates them from other colleges and universities, and allows these people to come in and basically get a pitch from the school on why they should be attending there. So that's semi-new, the virtual open house, but most of the other reasons that education still remains a high webinar user, the departmental meetings and orientations, those things are still very regular. So the last thing would be corporate. Now, corporate could mean SMB all the way up to Fortune 500. There isn't really a niche in that particular target market. I think everyone at this point in time uses webinars to one extent or another. Again, leveraging webinar tools to communicate company-wide policy changes, updates, CEO messaging. There's so many reasons why corporate customers out there are using webinar tools. There's a lot of them to choose from. What puts us in a good position in these particular instances is we have an all-in-one. You can flip from webinar to meeting, so it serves more than one use case within that particular organization. Or my Teams messaging you can have to replace things like Slack or Teams. You can have regular ad hoc meetings on our video meeting service, and then just literally flip it over to webinar and hold a large-scale webinar. So it gives corporations that flexibility to use all of the different tiers of communication that you have available to you. So that's basically our webinar tool in a nutshell, if you will. Any questions? I mean, we can use the chat and kind of address them on the call. I will encourage you to talk to your account manager, whoever your contact here is at iotum, and talk about some of the questions you might have on positioning, what's the best go-to-market strategy, pricing. All of those things could be covered. And I'd encourage you to lean on your resources here at iotum to get all of those addressed. So I'll give it a minute or two to see if any questions roll in. If not, we can wrap it up early. So we have Bola. When would this be available to resell? Right now, Bola. I mean, Kara, if you want to address Bola on that one.
Yeah, we can put this, sorry, I thought I mentioned before, we can add this to your beta plan so you can test it. We would want you to use it internally just to try everything out, obviously make sure you're comfortable with it. And then we can hold a meeting to obviously discuss pricing, right? Because we have to decide how you want to position it, and we have to provide you with that, those tools in terms of how you would package it and add it. Everybody's different. There's no standard, so we want to help you with that. And then you can roll it out. It'll be more of a one-on-one versus like a full, versus a rollout Sarah might do, and telling you guys about feature updates, etc. This would be more of a one-on-one conversation that we would have.
So is it available on the website front end or as an add-on for the dashboard only?
That's going to be part of the conversation that we have and how to position it, I think. It's not, I guess you're asking how you would add it in there. We added it to your subscription plan as the feature to your plan, but that's not necessarily how you would present it to your customers. I think that would become more apparent when we talk about how we're rolling it out in the pricing.
Just to hop in here from a marketing perspective, hi, Dora here from iotum. It really depends on you and how you want to market it to your customers. From a Callbridge point of view, how we are going to market it to our customers is webinars. It's marketed as an add-on. So you do have to have a meeting room in order to actually access the webinar capabilities, but that's just one meeting room, right? So on our website, we are marketing it as webinars, Callbridge Webinars, and then in the back end, it's added as an add-on. So, and we can send out a bunch of marketing materials that we're using to, show you guys how we are going to market it. We have a sell sheet, a web page, and a pricing page as well on kind of suggested retail pricing.
Yeah, I just uploaded the sell sheet that Dora's put together that we can brand for you if you would like us to. Just let us know. We can put this together, put your branding, your product name, all of that on here. So you can upload that to your site, distribute to customers, however you'd like to do that.
Any other questions while we're still here? Again, if you don't think of something now, by all means, talk to your contact at iotum about how to get this added, the best, how to lead with your best foot forward, go-to-market strategy, pricing, all of that stuff can be covered on a one-on-one session. Breakout rooms. It is. So good question. So the question is are breakout rooms available? And what would be the use case for a breakout room in a webinar? So a good case for this would be in education, as an example. If you have a group of, let's say, students that you are doing an online session with, or even in a corporate environment where you have some, corporate updates you're doing where you want to have different departments break out and brainstorm about certain ideas. Basically, how the breakout room works is it creates sub-conferences within the conference. So you can assign different people to different breakout rooms, and they almost have their own private webinar on the side, outside of view of everybody else. As the host, you can bring everyone back in, but the breakout room basically acts as a sub-conference, if you will. So it's available, and you can certainly leverage it. And it's available in our meetings solution as well. It's not just for webinar. It's across the board. Any last questions before I let everyone get back to their day? Looks like that was it. I think we addressed everything everyone needed to hear. Analytics. Okay, good question. There are some analytics as it stands now. We are going to be releasing a little bit more in-depth analytics tools for post-call summaries, who joined, how they joined, what they joined on. Currently, it's standard post-call data that you're receiving. So start and end times and who was on, and I think that's just about it at the moment. But we are looking at adding some additional information that moderators or hosts can view either pre or post webinar. So it'll allow you to have a more detailed look at kind of how your session went. Good question about the analytics. I think the analytics piece, to be quite honest, is something that will grow organically over time. I think as partners start to position it in the market, they're going to be hearing more and more requests for different types of in business intelligence on how their webinar tool is working for them, things that they want to see in a report. And as you know, any type of feature request or things that you find out in the wild while you're selling the product, all of those things should be brought to our attention, because it's useful information for our dev team to look at as far as new features added to the roadmap. So the analytics, I think, will be an ongoing, growing set of features. Emotion badges. When will they be available? So as the current roadmap states now, it's a Q4 thing. I'm getting some confirmation on that as we kind of wrap up the year. I know that common bug fixes, just some user experience fixes were the priority. So I'll get back to you on that one in particular, but I do know that there's something that are requested just to show your engagement in a webinar. So emotion badges are certainly a thing that is coming down the pipe. Thank you. Okay, I think we'll wrap it up there. If there are any other questions, I encourage you to be in touch with your iotum representative, whoever that may be, and if you need assistance on how to position the product, how to add it, or even have some opportunity that you're already thinking about that could be a good candidate, engage us. Let us know. We'll help you get in a position where you are leading with your best foot forward, and obviously your success is paramount to our success. So we want to see you guys have what you need when you go out to sell. Again, this is hopefully the first of many future webinar sessions that we do. It'll be an evolving thing for iotum to keep the partner community engaged and make sure you understand the features that you have available to you, make sure that you understand the different products that we have on our suite. I think we'll do one about our Teams messaging in the near future, so keep an eye out for that. But again, thanks everyone that attended. We look forward to seeing the opportunities come in. See you later, everybody.